12 days after the American evacuation from Saigon was complete in April 1975, the American merchant ship SS Mayaguez was carrying classified cargo from the abandoned American embassy in Saigon to an American air base in Thailand. For unknown reasons, it foolishly sailed within 2 miles of a Cambodian island and was confronted by Cambodian patrol boats. The ship was seized, prompting demands from the White House for an immediate recapture of the ship and airstrikes on Cambodia. This resulted in an unnecessary and disorganized military response that killed 100 innocent Cambodians and 41 American servicemen. These facts are ignored in official history because some insist this incident was managed well. In his book, When the Center Held, former Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld refers to the, quote, successful handling of the Mayaguez incident because it allowed President Gerald Ford to, quote, demonstrate his command at the time of international crisis. Not all share this rosy and revisionist view of this disastrous and unnecessary military operation that left 41 Americans dead and killed a greater number of innocent Cambodians. Much attention is directed at the tragedy of the 3 Marines left behind who were executed, but no one questions why the Mayaguez sailed into dangerous Cambodian waters or the insane plan to rescue the crew. This story begins in March 1975, when Cambodian patrol boats were captured by the Khmer Rouge, who had conquered the entire nation. They began seizing ships and boats that entered Cambodian waters. They had a legal right, and worried the American CIA was delivering men and material to drive them from power. These soldiers also knew that Vietnamese were fleeing their homeland with gold, cash, and jewelry, so riches may be found on boats and ships. American intelligence was aware of these seizures and knew that ship crews were treated well and released after a few days. The American cargo ship SS Mayaguez was seized on May 12, 1975, inexplicitly sailing in Cambodian waters. The United States didn't attempt a peaceful resolution, but responded with violence. American warplanes arrived overhead and began firing in front of the ship, forcing it to halt near Koh Tang Island. The Cambodians searched the ship but only found large locked cargo containers. The arrival of American fighter aircraft caused concern, so they loaded the American crew on a fishing boat and left the Mayaguez adrift. United States Air Force fighter aircraft attacked Cambodian boats in the area and sank 3 until they saw Caucasians aboard a fishing boat and realized they might be American crewmen. U.S. Navy warships Coral Sea, Gerald Holt, and Henry Wilson were scheduled to arrive by May 15th, but none carried Marines. An aircraft carrier, the USS Hancock, carried a Marine contingent, but wouldn't arrive until May 16th, while the USS Okinawa, with hundreds of Marines, could not arrive until May 18th. The only sooner option was to fly Marines from Okinawa, Japan to Thailand, where 19 U.S. Air Force helicopters were based. Despite pilot reports of Caucasians aboard a fishing boat sailing to the mainland, the U.S. military assumed the crew remained aboard the Mayaguez or had been moved to the nearby island of Koh Tang. No attempt was made to contact anyone aboard the ship or the island, which should be the first step in a hostage situation. The United States was not at war with Cambodia, and the Mayaguez had entered Cambodian waters. During the prior month, the Khmer Rouge had captured 7 Thai fishing boats, shot at a South Korean freighter, captured 7 South Vietnamese vessels, and held a Panamanian ship for 35 hours. In each case, the crews were released unharmed several days later. The Cambodians made no threats or demands, and were seeking contact with the American military to organize a safe return of the crew and an end to attacks on their boats. But the safe release of the Mayaguez crew was not a priority. The Mayaguez held 77 containers of government and military cargo from Saigon, and the U.S. military wanted this secured immediately. In addition, President Ford's administration was embarrassed by the recent debacle in Vietnam. This incident provided an opportunity to show the world that the United States remained lethal and would slaughter innocents if provoked. This was obvious when President Ford convened the 4th and final meeting of the National Security Council regarding the Mayaguez. America's top general at the Pentagon briefed the president on the helicopter assault plans and planned strikes by B-52 heavy bombers on port facilities on mainland Cambodia. Concerned that the use of B-52s might be excessive, President Ford limited the bombing to attacks by smaller carrier-based aircraft. This plan was either incompetent or demonstrates the depravity of those at the Pentagon. Slaughtering innocent Cambodians was not justified and would endanger the crew who might be executed in retaliation. In Thailand, 270 Marines arrived who joined 75 volunteers from the U.S. Air Force Security Force and boarded huge Air Force H-53 helicopters for blind aerial assaults, since they had no information about the location of the crewmen or the number or weaponry of Cambodians aboard the Mayaguez or Koh Tang Island. The United States military sought permission from the government of Thailand to launch this attack from their soil, but were refused. They launched it anyway. The mission suffered its first disaster when one helicopter crashed en route, killing 23 American airmen. Unknown to the 200 Americans flying to Koh Tang, none of the Mayaguez crews were on the island, but it was defended by over 100 Khmer Rouge soldiers who were prepared to repulse a possible Vietnamese invasion. They had set up defensive positions along the two likely landing beaches that were also the only good locations for large helicopters to land. Navy fighter aircraft began strafing the beach areas, demonstrating hostile intent to the Cambodians. There was obviously no concern for the safety of the crewmen, who might have been killed by the strafing or by angry Cambodians. Luckily, none were on the island. There are many detailed accounts of the disastrous landing on Koh Tang and the subsequent battle. See the Wikipedia link below that includes several other accounts in the footnotes. The Khmer Rouge shot down 3 H-53 helicopters on or near Koh Tang Island, and 15 Marines and airmen perished. As the Marines landed, a Thai fishing boat approached the USS Wilson, which was offshore supporting the Marines' landing. Aboard the boat, which was captured by the Cambodians a few days earlier, was a Thai crew and the 39 men of the Mayaguez, who had been released several hours earlier. The landing force was ordered to withdraw, but was pinned down. More Marines were landed to help extract the mauled landing force. The Marines escaped, but left most dead bodies behind, as well as a 3-man machine gun crew that was somehow overlooked. A few hours later, the Marines realized 3 men were missing. There was talk of sending the Marine force back to search for them, but most helicopters had been shot down or damaged, and the 3 Marines were thought to be dead, or if captured, would be killed anyway. The 3 Marines managed to hide in the jungle for several days until captured while scrounging for food. They were transported to mainland Cambodia and executed in retaliation for the senseless American attacks. During this battle, the USS Holt pulled aside the Mayaguez to allow Marines to board. They found it empty and towed the ship away. The Ford administration spun this disaster into good news that the ship and crew had been rescued, without mentioning the embarrassing details. After the Mayaguez crew returned to the United States, they filed a lawsuit against the owner of their ship, Sea Land Service, and the U.S. government, claiming their lives were unnecessarily endangered. The legal discovery process took years, and much of the information remains classified to include the contents of the secret containers. But it did reveal there were unexplained radios, radar, and a computer aboard. The Mayaguez had sailed that route many times before, but never just 2 miles from a Cambodian island. Its captain had been recently warned that several firefights had occurred between Vietnamese and Cambodians around these islands. Finally, the Mayaguez was sailing without an American flag. The strange tale of the SS Mayaguez leaves questions unanswered. With the chaos along the coastal region of Vietnam and Cambodia at the time, why did the Mayaguez captain sail into this dangerous area? Why leave the normal sea lane to sail within 2 miles of Cambodia with no national flag flying? He could have safely sailed around these islands, although that would have added another hour of sailing time. Another mystery is what was aboard the Mayaguez that required its immediate recapture that put the crew in grave danger and resulted in a hasty rescue mission that killed 41 Americans and left 49 wounded. Was the ship secretly recording Cambodian military radio traffic? Were men from the CIA aboard to drop off or recover people or equipment? No one has ever offered an explanation, and even lawsuits failed to provide an answer. The Mayaguez disaster is remembered as a heroic rescue, when in fact the crew would have been promptly released. Stories focus on the fate of the 3 Marines left behind, but not the over 100 Americans and Cambodians killed by the indifference of American leaders. Conducting a hostile landing to save crewmen held by armed Cambodians was senseless, since they would have been killed by fire from the Marines or their captors. The Battle of Koh Tang Island is often called the last battle of the Vietnam War, but was really the last crime of the Vietnam War.